You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Evidence preservation is the discipline of maintaining digital artifacts in a way that keeps them intact, reliable, and admissible for investigations and potential legal proceedings. In cybersecurity, preservation means not only retaining logs, memory captures, or disk images, but also documenting how they were collected and stored so that their integrity cannot be questioned. Preservation supports incident response by ensuring investigators can reconstruct events long after systems have been remediated. It also underpins legal discovery requirements, giving courts confidence that evidence has not been altered. For learners, think of it as placing items from a crime scene into tamper-proof evidence bags. The bag does not just keep the item intact, it also signals to everyone that the evidence has been safeguarded responsibly. Similarly, digital evidence preservation ensures that logs, emails, and forensic images remain reliable throughout the life cycle of an investigation. A core mechanism for evidence preservation is the legal hold. When an organization anticipates litigation or regulatory inquiry, it must suspend ordinary deletion and retention policies to protect potentially relevant data. A legal hold freezes evidence in place, preventing automated cleanup processes or well-meaning custodians from deleting files. The hold may apply to email archives, file shares, chat systems, or cloud repositories. Failure to issue a timely hold can lead to spoliation destruction of evidence, which can result in legal sanctions. Legal holds often take the form of formal notices to custodians, instructing them to preserve specific categories of data. For learners, this is like a "Do Not Destroy" tag placed on documents in a physical archive. Until the legal matter is resolved, normal shredding or archiving processes are suspended to protect the integrity of potential evidence. Defining scope is a crucial step in e-discovery, where organizations determine what data is relevant to a case or investigation. Scope includes identifying custodians' people whose data may be relevant, defining date ranges to filter material, and selecting data types such as emails, instant messages, documents, or log files. Clear scope prevents overcollection, which can overwhelm review teams, and undercollection, which risks missing critical evidence. Scope decisions must be made collaboratively between investigators and legal counsel, balancing completeness with practicality. For learners, imagine searching a library. Without a scope, you might copy every book, creating mountains of irrelevant material. With scope, you define which authors, years, and subjects matter, focusing effort where it is most likely to produce relevant results. Proper scoping keeps e-discovery efficient, defensible, and focused on the information most relevant to the case at hand. Defensible preservation requires more than just freezing data. It requires documentation and accountability. Organizations must record which sources were placed under hold, when the decision was made, and who was notified. Custodial notices provide clear instructions to employees, while preservation logs document every action taken to safeguard evidence. Defensible preservation also requires transparency about what was excluded and why, ensuring decisions can be defended if challenged in court. For learners, this is like maintaining a ledger during a financial audit. It is not enough to say you safeguarded the funds, you must show how, when, and with what oversight. In forensics, defensible preservation ensures that even years later, organizations can explain and prove how evidence was protected from alteration or destruction. Technical mechanisms for enforcing preservation include retention flags, immutable storage, and write once read many (WARM) features. Retention flags in email systems or cloud storage prevent users from deleting messages until the hold is lifted. Immutable storage ensures that once data is written, it cannot be altered, creating defensible assurance of integrity. WARM storage has long been used in industries like finance and healthcare, where regulations require records to remain unchanged for years. These technical mechanisms reduce reliance on manual compliance and provide provable guarantees of evidence protection. For learners, think of these like safes with time locks. Once closed, no one, not even administrators, can alter the contents until the lock expires. Forensics requires this level of assurance because if evidence can be changed, its legal value quickly erodes. At the same time, e-discovery must balance preservation with privacy and data minimization. Over-collection risks exposing sensitive personal data or privileged communications unnecessarily. Legal and compliance teams must ensure that holds and collections are narrowly tailored to what is relevant. Privacy laws, such as GDPR, emphasize minimizing data collection and retention, even in discovery contexts. This means organizations must collect only what is necessary, apply filters carefully, and protect data throughout the review process. For learners, imagine a doctor examining a patient. They only gather the information needed to make a diagnosis, not every possible detail of the patient's life. In the same way, evidence preservation and e-discovery must be scoped and filtered responsibly, protecting both privacy and investigative needs. Chain of custody requirements are especially strict when evidence is destined for litigation. Every handoff, from the moment of collection to the point of review, must be documented. This includes who accessed the evidence, when it was accessed, and what was done with it. Breaks in the chain can undermine admissibility in court, as opposing counsel may argue that evidence could have been tampered with. Chain of custody logs provide the legal assurance that evidence is authentic and unchanged. For learners, think of a baton in a relay race. Each runner's handoff is clear and documented. If the baton goes missing or is dropped, the team's credibility collapses. In forensics, maintaining a flawless chain of custody is what keeps evidence credible in the eyes of the law. Ephemeral sources such as chat messages, collaboration platforms, or short-lived cloud instances pose some of the hardest preservation challenges. These artifacts may disappear within hours or days unless captured deliberately. Best practice involves enabling archiving features proactively or deploying best-effort capture strategies such as exporting chat logs, snapshotting containers, or mirroring volatile instances. While not always perfect, these methods provide at least partial preservation of evidence that might otherwise vanish. For learners, this can be compared to catching footprints in snow. Unless you act quickly, the sun melts them, and they're gone. Ephemeral evidence requires agility and planning so that even transient digital traces are preserved when they matter most. Communication with legal counsel is vital from the very beginning of preservation efforts. Legal teams help define scope, ensure compliance with privacy and jurisdictional rules, and document preservation decisions so they withstand later scrutiny. Counsel can also guide how custodians are notified, how privileged data is handled, and how evidence is prepared for potential litigation. For learners, think of this like having an architect oversee a construction project. Engineers may know how to build, but the architect ensures the design complies with codes and zoning. In evidence preservation, investigators may know the technical steps, but legal counsel ensures the process is defensible and aligned with obligations. Custodial interviews provide another valuable step in identifying sources of evidence. Even the best scoping may miss shadow IT systems, personal devices, or informal communication channels. Interviews with custodians, employees, or stakeholders whose data is in scope help surface overlooked evidence. Custodians can confirm what tools they used, what files they created, and what records might exist outside formal systems. These interviews reduce the risk of incomplete discovery and add context to preserved evidence. For learners, this is like interviewing witnesses at a crime scene. CCTV footage may show part of the story, but witnesses often reveal details that cameras missed. Custodial interviews ensure investigators capture both digital traces and human context to complete the evidentiary picture. A practical exercise for learners is to draft a sample legal hold notice for a hypothetical incident. Identify a custodian list, such as employees from finance and IT. Define the data types to preserve, such as emails, chat logs, and system access logs. Specify a preservation start date and make clear that deletion policies are suspended until further notice. Finally, include an acknowledgement tracking mechanism, requiring custodians to confirm they received and understood the notice. This exercise highlights the organizational and procedural aspects of evidence preservation. For learners, it is like practicing an emergency drill. While the incident may be hypothetical, the mechanics of issuing holds, tracking acknowledgments, and defining scope are critical skills that prepare you for real-world e-discovery demands. The e-discovery process follows a structured collection-to-review workflow that ensures evidence is managed in a logical sequence. It begins with preservation, where data is frozen to prevent deletion or alteration. Collection comes next, involving the transfer of data from custodians or systems into secure repositories. Processing follows, where data is indexed, normalized, and prepared for analysis. Review is the human step, where lawyers and investigators examine documents for relevance or privilege. Finally, production delivers selected evidence to courts, regulators, or opposing counsel in standardized formats. This step-by-step process ensures evidence is handled consistently and defensibly. For learners, it's like the stages of preparing a case in a courtroom drama. Evidence is secured, organized, examined, and finally presented. Each stage is interdependent, and skipping or rushing one risks undermining the integrity of the entire e-discovery effort. Processing steps play a central role in reducing the burden of e-discovery. Large datasets may contain duplicates, irrelevant material, or hidden metadata that must be exposed for proper review. Deduplication eliminates repeated files, ensuring reviewers don't waste time looking at the same content multiple times. Indexing makes documents searchable, while metadata extraction provides key details such as creation dates, authorship, or recipients. These steps transform raw evidence into structured repositories that legal teams can navigate effectively. Without processing, review becomes unmanageable, consuming enormous time and resources. For learners, this is like sorting through a warehouse of books. Without cataloging and deduplication, you'd be stuck reading the same titles repeatedly, with no clear way to find relevant material. Processing imposes order, making large volumes of data manageable and efficient to review. Technology-assisted review, often called TAR, adds another layer of efficiency by using algorithms to reduce the human workload. TAR tools can analyze document sets, rank likely relevance, and apply search terms or analytics to cull large volumes into manageable subsets. This doesn't replace human review but enhances it, helping teams prioritize what to examine first. In some cases, TAR can reduce millions of documents to a fraction that actually require human eyes. For learners, imagine using metal detectors on a beach. Instead of digging everywhere blindly, you let the detector highlight areas most likely to contain valuable items. TAR tools provide that same guidance in e-discovery, directing attention where it matters most while reducing cost and time. Defensibility comes from documenting algorithms used and maintaining transparency about how results were filtered. Privilege review and redaction are critical in protecting sensitive communications. Privileged documents, such as correspondence between a company and its legal counsel, must be flagged and withheld from production. Redaction involves removing sensitive elements, such as personal identifiers or confidential business data, before documents are shared. Both steps ensure compliance with privacy obligations while protecting legal strategies. Failure to conduct proper privilege review can expose organizations to unnecessary risk, as privileged content disclosed in error may lose its protections. For learners, think of this like editing a book before publication. Certain passages must be blacked out to protect secrets, even while the broader story is shared. Privilege review ensures only appropriate content is handed over in discovery, maintaining both compliance and legal protections. Chain of custody remains important, even during e-discovery production. Legal teams must be able to prove that the evidence provided is authentic and unaltered since collection. This involves maintaining custody logs, re-verifying hashes before production, and documenting every transfer. Opposing counsel or regulators may challenge authenticity, and these logs provide the defense. For learners, think of this like verifying currency in a bank vault. Every handoff is logged, every count verified, and discrepancies flagged. In legal discovery, the same rigor applies. Without chain of custody, evidence may be excluded, regardless of its technical value. Maintaining custody discipline all the way through production ensures admissibility and credibility. Export formats and metadata standards are another important consideration. Courts and regulators often require evidence in specific formats, such as PDF, TIFF, or native file formats with metadata intact. Metadata preservation is crucial since timestamps, authorship, and access history often matter as much as the document itself. Failure to preserve metadata may weaken cases or lead to accusations of tampering. Standard export formats ensure evidence can be shared consistently across parties and reviewed with common tools. For learners, think of this like submitting financial reports. It's not enough to hand over numbers. You must use agreed formats like spreadsheets or PDFs so others can validate calculations. In e-discovery, formats and metadata standards provide transparency, consistency, and defensibility across stakeholders. Once legal holds are released, defensible disposal of preserved data becomes the final step. Organizations cannot hold data indefinitely, especially when privacy regulations mandate minimal retention. Disposal must be documented, showing which data was deleted, when, and under what authority. This reconciles legal hold processes with normal retention policies, closing the loop. Defensible disposal prevents organizations from accumulating unnecessary liability while proving that evidence was managed responsibly. For learners, think of this like returning borrowed books to a library. Once they're no longer needed, keeping them serves no purpose and may even cause issues. Properly documented disposal ensures organizations respect privacy obligations while reducing long-term risks. Many organizations turn to third-party e-discovery vendors to manage scale and complexity. Vendors provide specialized platforms, secure hosting, and experienced teams for handling large evidence sets. When selecting vendors, organizations must evaluate security controls, compliance with privacy laws, and evidence handling practices. Vendors effectively become custodians of sensitive information, so contracts and oversight are critical. For learners, imagine hiring a moving company to transport priceless artwork. You'd vet their procedures carefully, ensuring security, insurance, and professionalism. Similarly, e-discovery vendors must be chosen and monitored with care, as they hold sensitive evidence that must remain both secure and defensible. Coordination between incident response, legal, compliance, and business owners is essential throughout preservation and discovery. Each group brings unique perspectives. IR teams know where technical evidence resides. Legal ensures defensibility. Compliance oversees regulatory requirements, and business owners provide context about systems and data. Without coordination, discovery can become fragmented, risking omissions or overcollection. With coordination, efforts remain aligned and efficient. For learners, this is like building a complex puzzle. Each stakeholder has a different piece, and only by working together does the full picture emerge. Coordination ensures all evidence is captured, preserved, and presented responsibly. Preparing for depositions and evidence presentation is another critical outcome of the e-discovery process. Lawyers and investigators must summarize findings, prepare annotated artifacts, and create clear timelines for presentation. This involves distilling technical complexity into narratives understandable to judges, juries, or regulators. Evidence must be defensible not only technically but also communicatively. For learners, this is like a teacher preparing lesson notes. The material must be accurate, but it also must be presented in a way students can understand. Similarly, forensic evidence must be distilled into clear, compelling stories that withstand scrutiny and aid decision-makers. Preserved evidence sets are not static. They must be monitored for new responsive data as investigations evolve. For example, if new custodians are added or the timeline expands, additional data must be brought under hold and integrated into review. Monitoring ensures discovery remains complete and up to date, preventing accusations of withholding evidence. For learners, think of this like a gardener pruning and expanding a hedge. It requires ongoing care to keep the shape consistent as it grows. Monitoring preserved evidence keeps discovery aligned with the evolving needs of investigations and litigation. Ultimately, e-discovery and evidence preservation are joint legal technical disciplines. They succeed only when investigators, counsel, and business leaders collaborate early, document thoroughly, and rely on defensible tools and processes. Preservation without legal oversight risks privacy violations. Legal strategy without technical rigor risks spoliation. Together, the disciplines ensure that digital artifacts remain authentic, relevant, and admissible while supporting efficient case resolution. For learners, the key takeaway is that forensics does not end at evidence collection. Preservation and discovery continue the chain, ensuring that evidence not only tells a story but can stand up under the toughest scrutiny in courts, regulatory hearings, or business disputes. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.